Hello everyone, on this edition of Living Blind with Cory Jackson, we are making comfort food at its finest. We are going to make up today some chicken and noodles with some dumplings on top. I'm telling you, this is a great dish to have, but don't be on any type of diet when you eat it because it's definitely not part of your diet. So sit back, relax, and spend a little time with me while we make chicken and noodles with some dumplings on top. So a Sunday afternoon for us means staying at home, doing some cleaning, doing a little cooking, having some company, and what better time to enjoy some comfort food than that. So today we are going to make chicken and noodles, and what I like to do when I make chicken and noodles is I like to put some dumplings on top. So here's what you're going to need. You're going to need some boneless, skinless chicken breast. I have one here that we got fresh. This is a rather large one, but we are having company, so that's okay. It's frozen, so I'll be cooking it in the pressure cooker. You're going to need some chicken broth. I made my own broth a couple months back, some homemade bone broth. It's been in the freezer, so I have that out here. You are going to need 2.5 cups of flour, and you're going to need 1/2 cup of either butter, or you could use lard, or you could use Crisco, and that's going to help with your dumplings. And you're also going to need a cup of milk, and then your noodles of choice. I usually like to get reams or Kaluskis, but we decided to have this at the last minute. So we are going to be using, honey, what kind of pasta is it?
Fettuccine noodles.
Fettuccine noodles. So little twist to it, but a noodle is a noodle. They all taste very similar in my opinion. So that's what you're going to need to make this, and let's get started. So we're going to start out, I've already put like 2 cups of water in my Instant Pot. So we're going to add in a couple of packages of this frozen broth. There's one. And here is number 2. I should have followed these out, but I didn't, so they're a little tricky to get out of here, but that's okay. And this broth, I seasoned it when I was making it. There's nothing like homemade bone broth. And if you have a pressure cooker, you can put it together so easily. And now what I'm going to do is just add this humongous boneless, skinless chicken breast that we got from the butcher a few months back. It's probably, I'm going to say it's about 2.5 pounds. I'm just going to throw that in there, and we're going to put this in the pressure cooker and throw on the lid. Now, if you're making just normal size boneless, skinless chicken breast, you can have them tender enough by cooking them under pressure for about 30 minutes or so. This one is huge, so I am going to use my phone and start the pressure cooker. Open Smart Cooker. And I'm going to choose the manual option. High pressure. And we're going to cook this baby for an hour so that it'll be fine, it'll be nice and tender, and we'll be able to break it up really easy in our broth. So I've hit the start button, it's going to cook, and let's let that cook for a while and we'll be right back. So while our chicken is cooking, I already have my 2.5 cups of flour in my bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my, I'm using lard, so I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of lard. My grandma Coates swears by lard. Now she's from Kentucky though, so those Southerners, boy, they know how to cook. And that's who taught me how to make dumplings. I used to ask her over and over, Grandma, how do you make your dumplings? And so she has explained it to me over and over, And I think I've almost got it mastered. So I've added my lard into my 2.5 cups of flour. It's a 1/2 cup of lard, and I'm just gonna take my hands and get in here and squeeze it all together. And finally, it will turn into like a sort of a cornmeal kind of texture. And at that point, we will continue and add our milk. All right, so I've got that all mixed together well, and I'm just gonna kind of make a well right in the center. I'm gonna kind of push my flour to the sides of the bowl and leave the middle open. And I'm going to go ahead and take my cup of milk and add that in. It's gonna take all of it. So a cup of milk into the mix. And now some people will get a fork at this point and start stirring it all together. Since I've had my hands in it anyway, I'm just gonna start pushing that flour over into that milk mixture, which is gonna be pretty yucky to start with, and I'm gonna keep working with it until I have a nice dough. Now, just like I do when I make my biscuits, I turned out this dough onto a cookie sheet to not make a ton of mess on the counter. And instead of rolling out the dough, I'm just gonna take and push it out into as much of a rectangle as possible. I find that that works best. And we're gonna make it, I don't know, maybe 1/4 of an inch thick, just like you would if you were gonna make biscuits. If you were gonna make biscuits, you would push this dough out, or roll it out. If you wanna roll the dough out, you can, but I prefer to push it out. And then you'll cut it, and when your water and when your broth and your chicken and everything is good and hot and boiling, you'll take these strips and start to throw them in. They'll go under the hot broth for a while, and then they'll pop back up. And the important thing is, while you're cooking dumplings, is not to stir them. If you start stirring your dumplings, they are going to fall apart. So I've done this one time. I'm going to just fold it over and do it one more time, push it out, just like I would biscuits. This is a little bit of work. So I'll continue to push this out, and I'll be back in just a minute. And now we're going to take a pizza cutter and just cut these into strips, just like this. Strip will look about like that. And when we're done cutting them, we'll leave them set till we have our chicken and everything done. And we will kind of break these strips in half and drop them into our broth with our chicken and our noodles. And then we'll let them cook. And then we'll have some good chicken and noodles with dumplings. So we'll be back. All right, y'all, I've got my chicken out of the pressure cooker along with the broth. And I've already gone ahead and broke this chicken up because it was a lot of chicken. It was huge. So we are going to get ready to get our broth to boiling, and then we will get on with getting our noodles in the pot and adding the dumplings. All right, so we have our broth in the pot and everything ready to go. We're going to turn this on, let it come to a boil, and then we'll come back and add our noodles and then our dumplings. All right, now our broth is boiling, and we are going to start to put our noodles in. Again, we're using fettuccine because we chose to do this at the last minute. So I'm just going to break these into threes. Maybe twos, they're not that big. And we'll grab another handful. All right, so we've let those noodles boil for about 3 minutes just so they would soften up a little bit. Now I'm going to start breaking off these strips and dropping in these dumplings. And what will happen when I first throw them in is they will sink to the bottom but within just a minute or so, they will pop back up to the surface. And just remember, whatever you do not stir them or they will fall apart. Jen, we've learned that firsthand, haven't we?
Yep.
They will fall apart and you'll have nothing but broth. And I don't understand it, but that's what happens. So I'm just going to continue breaking these off. There's really no right or wrong size. And sometimes I even make them a bit wider, but since we're adding them to the top of the noodles, I decided to keep them kind of thin. But we're using self-rising flour, so they are going to expand. So I'll go ahead and finish putting these in and we'll come back. And as you can see, they have floated up to the top just like I told you they would. Now we're going to put the lid on these and continue simmering them for about 10 to 15 minutes. All right, we've had these cooking for about 15 minutes just on a simmer with a lid on, and check this out. The dumplings are like covering the whole top. But now it's safe to go ahead and add in the chicken and stir them up if we want to. So that's what we're going to do now. All right, so I'm going to just start to put chicken into these. I have a bunch of chicken back here, all cut up. And we're just going to put this chicken in and slowly start to stir it all together. And the dumplings are not falling apart. They're sinking back down into the broth. That's what we want them to do. And all of this is going, I'll probably turn it back up for a few minutes so that the chicken can reheat. And then we are going to eat some chicken and noodles with homemade dumplings on top. And here's the finished product. I hope that you'll give it a try. I know that you will like it if you like pasta, if you like dumplings, if you like chicken. I know I do. I know Chloe does, Jen does, Nick likes it. Everybody I know loves this dish. So let us know how it turns out if you decide to make it. Have a wonderful day.